I've read some things where it seems people may be at odds. I couldn't tell you that legislator A and legislator B aren't getting along anymore. I do still see that there are folks who are willing to work across the aisle in some instances. I think we have unanimous juries coming up to the House floor today. That's a bill carried by Senator J.P. Morrell from New Orleans, a Democrat. And I think in the House, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Republican Representative Sherman Mack is going to be the person who carries it on the floor for him. So there is still some bipartisanship happening at the Capitol, and there are still a lot of people who are willing to work together. I just think the general sense is people are ready to go home.
Sure. Okay, so why don't you tell us about that legislation? I mean, it's really unique from the standpoint, like you said, seems to have some bipartisan support.
It does have bipartisan support. It got through the Senate with overwhelming support. It got through House Committee, which is chaired by Republican Sherman Mack, and if I am not mistaken, I don't believe that it got a vote against it in committee. I may be wrong on that, but I think that that's accurate. But you're right. Louisiana is one of two states that does not require a unanimous jury to convict someone for a serious felony. And we are the only state that doesn't require a unanimous jury to send someone to prison for the rest of their lives. I think that it's a hallmark of American jurisprudence to have a unanimous jury. If the state wants to deprive you of your life and liberty, they should have to clear a high hurdle to do that. And I think that that's what this legislation does. It would put us on par with almost the rest of the country outside of Oregon. And it would give Louisianans a chance to, if they're wrongly convicted, for the state to have to clear that high bar to put them in jail for the rest of their lives or for a long time. I think that it's a great piece of legislation. Americans for Prosperity of Louisiana is proud to support it, and I'll be on the House floor today working to do my part to ensure its passage.
What time does that come up? Any idea?
They go in at 2 today. My guess is that it'll be a little ways through the schedule before it happens, but it should happen this afternoon.
So who's opposed to it?
It's hard to tell. There are, I think, folks there. I think the easiest way to sum it up is there are probably, the thing I'm hearing the most is that there are district attorneys across the state who think that this would make their job a little bit harder to do, to quote, put bad guys in jail. And I think we all want to put bad guys in jail. The question is whether or not the district attorney's job should be a difficult job. And I think that it should be a difficult job. I don't think that we should pass or vote against legislation based on whether or not a district attorney is going to have an easier job to do. I think we should pass legislation based on what's right for the people of Louisiana. The thing about this is, and I've been talking primarily to conservatives about this legislation. The thing that I think is interesting about this is I think that this piece of legislation is small and limited government in its purest form. I think if you support protecting the property or the dollars of the citizens of Louisiana from the government, you should be just as interested, if not more, protecting their life and liberty from the state who seeks to take that away if they're found guilty. And I believe that if someone's found guilty, they should go to jail and they should have to serve out whatever sentence is handed down and whatever sentence is required by state law. The problem is I think that it should be by a unanimous jury. And I'm not alone in thinking that. Not only do 48 other states in this nation think that, one of the, if not the most conservative Supreme Court Justice, Antonin Scalia, wrote in a court opinion that the unanimous suffrage of 12 of his equals and neighbors is the least that the state should have to overcome to deprive a man of his life and liberty. And I think that's spot on.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate. I mean, we have very strong enforcement of, say, people coming into the country, and in terms of, say, Muslims. And we want to make sure that we protect our citizens. So why would we not want to protect our citizens here too, to ensure, I mean, I mean, it's hard to convict. So why are we making it more difficult?
Well, if you look at, again, every other state, they managed to take care of business with the unanimous jury requirement that they have. I think that whether you're someone in Texas or Louisiana or wherever, you should have the same rights. That if the government's going to deprive you of your life and liberty, it should be a difficult process for them to go through. It should not be able to be done on a whim. And this is, I think this is something that has proven out in other states that it's successful for a very long time. And I think that this is just, I think it's simply something that many Louisianans don't even know is different here. Most Louisianans don't go on trial. Most Louisianans don't know someone who goes on trial for a serious felony. And I think that this is something that I'm not even sure that I knew that this was something that Louisiana did even a year ago. So for us to have this discussion in Louisiana, I think shows that we're ready to move forward as a state from laws that are severely outdated, and we're ready to join the rest of the nation and get off of one of those bad lists that we talk about so often.
Yeah, in terms of it being outdated, if I'm not mistaken, I think the law, the 9 jurors, came about during either during or after the Civil War.
Yeah, from my understanding, it came about in the mid to late 1800s after the Civil War. And from what I understand, it was an answer to African Americans being allowed on juries in an effort to water down their influence on juries. That was something that was discussed in House committee specifically. And I even think that the DAs who were there to oppose it acknowledged that fact. So this is something that is born out of policies that I don't think you would see passed through the state legislature today. And the question before the House today is, do we want to stick with laws that were passed just post-Civil War that make us a severe outlier nationally, or do we want to move this state